Hey everybody, I'm Nathaniel Dodson from tutvid.com. Welcome into this Adobe Illustrator tutorial where today we're going to take a look at creating the Firefox logo from a sketch that I did of the Firefox logo a few months ago. We're going to take it into Illustrator, cover it, do it, make this thing look good, and well, you're seeing an example of it here on the screen now, so need I say more? I think not. If you do enjoy this tutorial, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you would like to follow along with this video, go ahead and use the download link in the video bio. You can download the sketch, import it into Illustrator, just as I will be doing here in a moment. You can follow right along and make your very own Firefox logo as well. So let's jump into Illustrator and get this thing started. All right, well, here we are in Adobe Illustrator, and we're going to begin by creating a new document, 2560 by 1440. Now, I am also working in the RGB color mode. You can really work in either one. I'm just choosing RGB because I'm an RGB kind of guy. I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. We have our document here. I'm going to adjust here in my Layers panel by hitting the little flyout menu there. I'm going to just go down to Panel Options. I prefer to work with slightly larger thumbnails, so I'll go with something like 45 pixels. It'll help us see what's going on in our layers here in just a moment. Next, I'm going to jump out to my Finder, and I'm going to drag the copy of the sketch into my Adobe Illustrator document. If you downloaded the sketch yourself, feel free to drag it in. I'm going to make this a bit smaller, just so the Firefox logo itself fits here on my, my little artboard area. I'm going to zoom in here. And this whole thing will basically begin by us tracing the sketch as we see it. But you know what, actually, before we get to tracing, I want to create the color scheme. So I'm just going to lock this layer up. In fact, I'm going to name this layer Assets because it's like my background asset. It's my sketch. Let's go ahead and create the colors that we're going to need for our Firefox logo before we do anything else. So it's going to begin here with the swatches panel. Let's create a new folder here. So it's a color group, as Illustrator calls it. We can call it whatever we want. I can call it Firefox. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to drag the color white to the trash. It just took the color that we had. And here in the swatches panel, we will create a new color group, and I can name it whatever I want. I'll hit OK, and there's our new little color group. Now, what we want to do is begin creating some color swatches here with our fill color picker. So I can just double click on that. And I've got some hex codes written down here in front of me. So let's go 4093D0 as our first color. It's kind of this light blue. And we can just click and drag this and drop it in our group just like that. Now, it is a good idea, generally speaking, to make this a global color. In this case, I've already tested these colors. I know they're the colors I want. So just to save us the step, I'm probably just not going to go in and make them global colors. However, like I said, global colors are awesome. But we're going to, in the interest of saving time, we're going to do it this way. All right, now I'll double click this foreground color and let's go with another color here, 4B2A72. This is going to be a much darker bluish, blue-purple, I don't know, something like that. I have difficulty seeing these blues. All right, just drag that right into that group. Now we're going to double click on our foreground. We have 8 colors, by the way, that we need to create. So we're 2 in, 6 to go. Let's go BE1D7B, and these are going to be very helpful to have later on. You'll see as we build out our Firefox logo. Let's also go EE2F36. This is kind of like a flat reddish color. 4 down, 4 to go. Let's select our fill color again. Let's go F9, 9E1D, and this is more of a light orange color. Let's drag this sucker in. Again, go back to the fill. Now here's where the colors get, they kind of get a little similar. FFCC06. This is more of like a very mustardy yellow color. And then we have 2 more sort of yellows here, FCEB03. You can see it's just a very vibrant yellow now. And last but not least, we have kind of a highlight color here, FBEF55. So this is just, you know, kind of the same yellow, but just a little brighter. So those are the colors that we want. Those 8 colors, it's going to be very helpful for us to have those colors as we work our way through creating this Firefox logo. So let's go ahead and create a new layer, and I'm going to grab my ellipse tool, and what I want to do, I just want to dump the stroke, or the fill, excuse me, and then I'm going to select the stroke, and we can give the stroke any old color. I'm going to go with a yellow just because, yellow's cool. This isn't really because we're going to be using this particular yellow. This is just, think of this as a marker. And I'm going to come over here to my appearance area of my properties panel, and I'm going to bounce the stroke up to like 5 points to make it very easy to see. Then I'm going to hold down my shift key, and I'm just going to drag in a nice little circle here that's going to be about the size of the globe here for my sketch. So probably something about that size is what we need, right? I just want to make sure that this part of the globe won't be revealed outside of the tail because we don't see any of the globe outside of the Firefox's tail in the proper Firefox logo. So there we go. We have the globe. And now let's go ahead and create the bulk of the fox itself. So we'll grab once more the pen tool. And I want you to try to think about this thing in parts. Like this ear is going to be a separate part. The snout here is going to be a separate part. The shadow here underneath his, ear or cheek, really, that's going to be a separate part. The little paw, that's going to be a separate part. And probably this little piece of tail will also be a separate part. So hang with me here for a second. Let's sort this out. Let's begin right here, and I'm going to pull a little bit of his cheek out, and then I'll probably pull up here and just drag those tangent handles until my path follows my sketch. I'm going to double click on my layer out here and change the color from light red to something we can actually see. Let's go with a light blue. That'll probably contrast a little better than what we've got going on. I'm going to hold down Alt-Option now and just pull a tangent handle back this way so the ear can kind of curve the way it should. Hold down Alt-Option again and pull a little tangent handle. I'm just looking to pull the tangent handle out a little bit so it's kind of like beginning to wrap around the curve. And the more you do this, the more you'll kind of understand, oh, you know what, I need my tangent handle to be pulled in this direction or that direction or whatever. And if you need to go back and adjust a tangent handle, that's fine. Hold down your Alt-Option key. I can select that tangent handle. Say, you know what, I need you to be pulled up this way. And over here I can pull it and adjust it a little bit and just make it all perfect. We really want to get this initial shape just kind of as nicely as we can. Hold down the Alt-Option key and click on that anchor point so you can just make that really sharp curve back. Hold down the Alt-Option key again and pull another tangent handle out. You see how I'm coming out past the curve, and then click and drag to just complete that shape or that curve really. Hold down Alt-Option once more, and we're going to make this nice sharp return here for our fox. That way, you know what? I probably should have curved this angle over here. Let me just undo this a couple times. Let's do this the right way. Let's do it the right way right out the gate. So I'm going to pull just a small handle back, or I probably don't even have to pull a handle back. I'm just going to make a small curve on it that way. And then I'm going to hold down Alt-Option. Let's pull the curve out this way. There we go. Hold down Alt-Option to straighten that out, and then make a little curve this way. It'll probably just give us a nicer looking finished illustration in the end. And then I'm going to pull this tangent handle out this way because now we got to come way around. In fact, I might zoom out just a little bit. I'm going to bring it. Do I bring it all the way to there? Let's see. Let's see if we can make this work. No, that was probably a bad mistake. Let's bring it to here. Look at that. We're just getting a nice smooth curve right around there. I'm going to suck this tangent handle back in just a little bit. And now we'll bend it right around here. And then hold down Alt-Option, re-drag the tangent handle, bend it right around here. Voila. Hold down Alt-Option. And we'll drag this out right like that. And then Alt-Option, click that anchor point, and let's curve this guy back around this way. Alt-Option, drag a new tangent handle out here. Dragging the tangent handle out, it kind of gives us a head start on the curve, right? So we kind of just make sure that it's going in the right direction before we do much with it. I'll just give this a nice little curve there. And then here's where we complete the tail. And just get a nice kind of swooping shape to the tail. We don't want it to be too crazy, but we still want it to kind of work and line up well. Hold down Alt-Option and let's pull the shape back this way, right? Because now we're bringing it home. So I'm going to drag this and pull this nice sharp tail shape in this way. And here we're going to kind of cut and make a perfect circle around this way. So I can actually just make an adjustment like that. And then ignore the perfect ellipse because that doesn't have to do with the fox. So I'll probably bring this guy right around about here. Something like that. And then we'll come all the way up underneath his cheek. Let's see. Do we have that? I think we do. And then Alt-Option here. We'll drag out a little bit and then just join the path. And there, if I open up my layer and I shut off the circular ellipse, we can see we've traced the sort of rough outline of the fox. Now, I would highly recommend you go through and find, like, you see how that doesn't look perfectly smooth? Hit the letter A to bring up the direct selection tool, and you can just go ahead and tweak and adjust and make whatever adjustments necessary to clean that kind of stuff up a little bit. It's much easier to do it now at this point than it will be later when we start layering in color and different effects and things like that. So I highly, highly, highly recommend you mess around with your lines and get everything as cleaned up and ready to rock and roll as you can get it here in this stage. So something like that. We get a nice, much more smooth curve wraparound. And you can just look around and make sure nothing's messed up. Like we could look here and make sure that Everything's good there. It's just not giving us the kind of point that we would have. But we're not going to be reliant upon the strokes, so that's fine. I just want to make sure I have one nice long path. These kind of curves can be easy to mess up, so you might want to take your time with them as well. But once we've got it, we're kind of ready to go. And I think at this point we're ready to just do kind of the other additional shapes that will be added to this. So here's how we do these. These are going to be pretty quick and easy because we're going to use a little Illustrator trick here. I'm going to just go ahead and draw his ear. So I'm just going to drag the ear. And all this stuff here, we don't even need to worry about all the stuff that's here underneath the rest of the illustration, if you will. All we need to do is make sure that this part of the ear out here lines up perfectly, because all of this in here, we're gonna make that line up perfectly, whether it wants to or not. All right, then I'm gonna draw out for his little snout. Let's make the snout. Snout is one of those funny words, isn't it? All right, there we go. And let's pull this right around, and right around the bottom as well. And then we'll loop up down here with the very bottom of our path. Looking good. Hold down Alt-Option just to reset that so we can have just a sharp line come all the way up and around. Voila. And we have a nice little snout for him. We need to get the little shadow here underneath his cheek. We need to get his paw. And then we need to get these shapes here that are going to be sort of these cuts into the tail. And then we'll also explore the highlight for the tail and this little shadow, but I think we're going to do that stuff later. Or we can get the little flick coming off his tail back there. Let's get the little bit underneath his cheek. So we'll hold down Shift here, and if you have your Smart Guides turned on, View Smart Guides right here, you can actually align exactly with an existing anchor point. So if I grab the pen tool, hold down Shift, you can see how, I don't know if you can see that, but it actually says when I hover over it, anchor. That's just letting me know, look, if you click here, you're actually going to get rid of this anchor, but you're specifically on the anchor. If I hold down the Shift key, I can click right on that anchor, and it's going to drop a fresh point for a new path. But what I want to do is I want to Shift click and drag to drag out some tangent handle action for myself, because I have a perfect curve that I'm looking to get here. So I want to make sure that I get that head start that I've been talking about. That looks about right. I can hold down my Alt-Option key. I can just adjust this a little bit more. There we go. It looks pretty good. And then what I can do is really the rest of the shape doesn't matter nearly as much because we're going to cut away everything that we don't need. Now for his paw, again, with my Smart Guides turned on, I can begin exactly on the path. So I can just hold down Shift, click there. I can begin pulling out a tangent handle. And I can just wrap right around here to get this paw, just get a perfect paw. Maybe I went too far. I got a little too ambitious there. There we go, something like that. I think I stretched that just a touch too far too. There we go. Let's take this a little up and over. Something like that's very nice. Let's make the front of his paw here. And then we'll wrap the paw around this way. Great. And then we can just bring the paw way over here. And that's going to be fine. Again, you just want to look at your lines and make sure they look smooth. If anything doesn't look smooth, adjust it now or forever hold your peace, because it's going to get much more difficult to adjust later on down the line. All right, that looks pretty good for the little shadow underneath his cheek. That looks good too. And it looks like kind of like a mess, but don't worry. We're going to be cleaning all this up soon. The point is we need to get all of our shapes and all of our paths created at this point. Let's go ahead and create this as well. I'm actually going to extend this little flary tail thing a little bit. Let's do that. Let's bring this around here all the way to the path. And then what I'll do is drag out a tangent handle. I just held down my Alt-Option key. I drag out that blue tangent handle. You see that? And then we'll bring it all the way back up here, hold down Alt-Option, and we can just create a nice little swooping tail flicky, piece that goes back there. Great. Remember, we have our ellipse still turned on, so we have that line. The only shapes we need are these little notches, and then when it comes time, we'll worry about the highlight shadow on the tail, but we'll get to that later. All right, so let's hold down, click P to grab our pen tool again. Hold down Shift. We're going to work right off these anchors. Hold down Shift, click, and let's drag out a nice little, hold down Shift and drag out a tangent handle. I think more like this. And let's click and drag a little bit, maybe something like that. Alt-Option and drag a tangent handle back this way. And just get some nice little notches here. Again, don't worry about the stuff hanging out here. We're going to clean all this up really nicely in just a little bit. Again, we'll Shift click and drag to get a nice little tangent handle. Alt-Option and drag a new tangent handle back this way. And then just make our nice little notch. Very cool. Hold down Shift. I'm going to drag another tangent handle out if you haven't gotten sick of me saying that yet. There we go. Alter Option. I'm going to pull a tangent handle back this way. We're almost done here, guys. We're almost done. There we go. And I'm actually going to make sure I cover up this entire area just like that. Like we basically encapsulate that entire little tail. It'll just give us more options later on down the road. All right. So we've created all these different shapes. How do we begin adding some color and really actually making this look like the Firefox logo? Well, first and foremost, let's select all of these paths by grabbing them with the selection tool and just Command or Control C to copy them. And let's move over here and paste them out here. And we'll work out here. That way, if we mess anything up, we still have our original paths. In fact, I'll select all these paths and go Object, Group, and just group them up, leave them there. We might even lock them up so we don't accidentally select them and do any damage to them. Let's go ahead and create our little globe underneath the Firefox first. So I'll select that little circular ellipse first. We're going to get rid of our stroke because we don't want that. And we're going to go to the fill, and I am going to add a gradient. I'm going to switch this to a radial gradient, and here's where our swatches become important. The two colors for the globe are the light and the dark blue, or the light blue and the purpley color. So I'm going to go light blue, drag it and drop that color on the white stop, and the darker purpley blue, I'm going to drag that over to the black stop. And then I'm going to grab my gradient tool right here. And I'll just drag in the highlight for this. The highlight should be somewhere up here. And by the time we're getting down here where his little paw is, that should probably be the shadow. I don't have a reference image here, so I'm kind of going from memory. But that's the way I believe it should go. And you know what? Worst comes to worst, we're going to create our own little, very similar version of the Firefox logo. Now, here's where we do something kind of interesting. We're going to grab the pen tool. I'm going to get rid of this gradient fill. And we're going to give our lines here, let's give them like a hot pink stroke. And I'm going to make the stroke something very noticeable, like maybe 10 points. What I want to do is create a series of 6 different lines. So with the pen tool, start drawing and drag out a line like this, and then bring that pink line all the way around, kind of something like that, okay? And then hit Enter to just kind of commit that path. Now we're going to create another path. So we're going to begin this one here. And this one is going to come through the fox and exit somewhere around this little part of his tail. In fact, it should probably come a little bit further than that. He'll exit somewhere right around there. And we might need to hold down Alter Option and just adjust these handles again. You can make all these different changes that you like to your paths. It's very, very easy to edit them. A very nice way to work. All right, hit Enter, Return to commit that path. This doesn't make sense right now, but don't worry. Hang with me. It's going to make sense very soon. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add another stroke right through here. So just another line, another path with the pen tool, just like that. Commit that. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop another line right about here. Commit that. And then I'm going to go with another little angular, not really angled, I should say, curved line there. And then finally, one last curved line all the way up here. Now you may be wondering, what is this? These 6 lines are ridiculous. What's going on here? Well, what we want to do is begin building a gradient for the fox. He has a very interesting colored gradient, and this is how we sort of make that. So let's select our first color here, and I have the stroke selected, so we can sample the pink color we have in our swatches panel, and the stroke will now be colored with that. Let's select our second color. We again have the stroke selected. Let's go with our red. And now the red is going to be that stroke color. Let's select the next pink color, and we're going to go with our orange. And then the next stroke color, and we're going to go with a lighter orange, and then an even lighter orange. Well, really, we're into the yellow territory, and then that very, very pale yellow to be the last color. So we've sort of lined these colors up. Now what we want to do is go Object, Blend, and choose Blend Options. And we'll go Specified Steps, and we should go with something pretty hefty, like maybe 250 specified steps. Hit OK. And let's begin by selecting the pink and red stroke first. You go one at a time here. Object, Blend, and we'll choose to make it. And you can see, oh, interesting. We're beginning to make a gradient. Hold down the Shift key and grab the orange stroke and go Object, Blend, Make. And we're going to just extend our gradient, right? Interesting, interesting. Let's grab the yellow. Here's where things are going to get a little weird because we need to make sure that the gradient can join from this path or from this very point here to this point without trimming off his nose. So we may actually take our direct selection tool, hit A, and drag this anchor point up a little bit more like that just to make sure we have reasonable color. It'll still probably be a little funky, but if it's not appearing over the fox, it really doesn't matter. Let's select the blend, hold down Shift, select that light orange layer, and once more, Object, Blend, Make. There we go. Okay, not bad, not bad. Hold down Shift, select the next color, Object, Blend, Object, Blend, Make. And last but not least, grab that very last color, Object, Blend, make. So you can see we have this very interesting shape that we have just made with a really crazy blend of colors. And we really have to mask this to the fox's body, but I think before we do that, I want to make sure 100% that the fox is everything we want him to be before we go ahead and create this mask. So let's just stash this blend away. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. In fact, I want to lock up the ellipse layer, this blue ellipse, just so we don't accidentally move it around. Let me show you how we're going to get these perfect shapes. Check this out. I can grab my selection tool and select this ear and the fox's body. So let's just select those two shapes. And we can use the very powerful panel here in Illustrator called the Pathfinder. Now I already have the Pathfinder open. It's right here. What I want to do is first choose to divide these shapes, right? So we're going to divide. What that's going to do is it's going to basically break this into all the parts that it can possibly be broken into. So the ear out here is going to be one piece. This little shape on the inside is going to be one piece, and then the rest of the fox is going to be another shape. In fact, I can see here a group has been created in my layers panel. If I open it up, you're going to see I have 3 paths. One path is that little shape inside of the fox, one is the outside ear, and one is the bulk of the fox's body. Now what I want to do is select that whole group and just ungroup it. Object, ungroup. We'll be using the hotkey from now on, Command-Shift or Control-Shift-G. And then all I need to do is select the little interior shape and the bulk of the fox's body and choose the Unite option right here. That's going to take that and just merge it right back together, and we have a perfect fox ear now on the outside of the fox. So of course, we're going to do the same thing with the snout. We'll select the snout, select the bulk of the fox's body, divide, ungroup, Command-Shift or Control-Shift-G. Select the inner part of the snout and the bulk of the fox's body, choose to unite them, boom, it goes away, and now we have a nice little snozzly snout and the rest of the fox's body, and it's a beautiful thing. Now, what we want to do here under the cheek of the fox, as well as with the paw, is a little bit more complicated. We'll come back and touch on that in just a second. I want to just get these shapes cut out real quick. So we'll do the same thing here. Select both shapes. We're going to go divide. We're going to ungroup them, select the outer shape, and just delete it. See, these are even easier. Select the big shape, select the bulk of the fox, divide, ungroup, select the outer shape, delete it. Easy, right? Easy. Divide, ungroup, select that outer shape, boom, gone. And the same thing up here. It's so easy. It almost should be illegal. Get rid of that. Whoops. What did I just do? Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to select this interior shape, select the bulk of the fox, and unite those shapes. There we go. What am I thinking? And there should be something else going on here. What's this? What do we have here? Looks like a little bit of a flat spot, but I think there's another shape in there. Look at that. We can probably, can we delete those shapes? Let me just highlight the whole thing. What's this little path? See, there's something there. Yeah, look at that. See that? There's some stuff hanging out there that we don't want. And that might just be a rendering thing. Yep, there we go. All right, let's turn the rest of the fox back on. And that might be a little area where we want to kind of touch that up, but I don't think we'll mess with it here in this tutorial. The main thing is we have our nice crisp shapes and everything is lined up. Now, to mess around with the shadow underneath the cheek of the fox, we want to get rid of, let me just hide the paw real quick, by the way, just so it's not distracting. We want to get rid of this little bit here that's hanging out over the globe, but we just want this to end up being a shape over top of the fox. So what we're going to do is we're going to perform our divide. So I'll select both shapes and we'll go divide and we'll ungroup them as well. We'll delete the outer shape. We know that's junk. But for this inner shape here, and don't worry, I know it looks a little funky down here. The way we're going to blend the gradient, you'll never even see it. I want to copy this shape. So I'm going to go Command or Control C. And then I'm just going to select both of these shapes and I'm going to reunite them. So it's just going to make one fox shape just like that. And now all I need to do is go Edit, Paste in Front, and it's going to paste that shadow shape back in front. So this is going to make sense later when we go and have to apply a shadow to give his cheek a little bit of definition. But you'll see when we get there. And by the way, don't worry about this mess of strokes coming together. Again, these fills are not going to be stroked with anything. These are just our lines. And if they're a little messy around the edges, that's entirely fine. Let's turn his paw back on. His paw we don't really need to do anything with because this is just going to be a shadow later on. And when it comes time to mask in the color, which we're going to be doing here momentarily, we'll just be able to copy the paw over and it'll be able to be part of our mask while still being a little disjointed. I think it'll be more valuable for us in the future to have the paw disjointed. So that's what I want to do. All right, speaking of masking, let's select this whole mess right here and go Command or Control C. And I think I'm going to group this. So let's go Command or Control G just to group this up. And we should probably hide this. We'll bring some of these strokes back in a moment. I just want to be able to see what happens here with the blend. So let's select the blend. Here in our transparency panel, which by the way is window, transparency right there, we're going to double click on this little thumbnail. It's going to give us a filled mask, which is great. We're going to go edit, and we're going to choose paste in front, which is going to paste some lines in there. We don't want lines. We want to get rid of our stroke, so just hit the little slash. And then here for the fill, we're just going to give this solid white. Hit OK. And now you can see we're beginning to build out what is starting to look a lot like the Firefox logo. Now what I can do, I want to get out of my opacity mask in this weird layers panel. So I'm just going to click here on my old blend, the unmasked blend, but it's still masked, don't worry. And we're back here to our layers panel. And here's where we begin adding a little bit of shadow to bring out some of the details in this shape. Okay, now before we actually begin the shading process, let's create a couple of shading gradients. This might sound a little weird, probably because it is. Let's just create a random circle out here, just something we can throw a gradient into. So go ahead and choose gradient. There we go. Now what I want to do is select the white color point here, and we're going to go to the flyout menu here in our color panel and go RGB. And I have a hexadecimal code to punch in, and that is 851F25. So it's a really like flat red color. And I want the same color to be in the other gradient stop as well. So we're going to go RGB. We're going to go hexadecimal, and I'm going to go 851F, what was it, 25, I believe. Same color. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of this color stop to 0. So we essentially have this flat red color to transparent. I want to drag this out of my fill swatch down into my swatches panel just to save it for this project so we can use it whenever we need it. All right, now we need to do another gradient. Let's select our first color stop here. We're going to change this. This is going to be another foreground to transparent. This is going to be another fill to transparent gradient. So we're going to go ED2024, just a much brighter red, and the same exact color for the other color stop. We're going to go ED2024, boom. And this gradient as well, we will drag and drop in our swatches panel. So we're going to need quick access to them because we're going to use those here to work on shading. All right, I'm going to lock up my blend so I don't move it. I'm going to turn my strokes back on. You can see the little strokes appear over everything. I'm going to drag these above the blend so we can see what we're working with. So let's begin first. Well, let's actually select this group and ungroup it. I might not have been thinking quite as far ahead as I should have been a moment ago. Command-Shift-G to ungroup. Let's grab his ear up here. Let's ditch the stroke. And let's go ahead and apply one of our gradients. So I'm going to go with the sort of flatter gradient. And I'm just going to grab the gradient tool. And let's go ahead and pull up. Let me pull up a little bit further. And this is going to be part and parcel of the shadowing here on the ear. In the transparency panel here, I'll probably set this to something like multiply and then just reduce the opacity to like 45%. Now again, we would really see what this looks like if we got rid of the bulk of our path here that is cutting it away from us. But you can see how we just have this now nice shadow division from the body of the fox to our ear, just like that. It was that easy. Let's turn the overall path back on. All right, now let's grab his little snout, and once more, we'll get rid of the stroke because we know we don't need that, and bring the fill back to the fore, and we're going to go with the less saturated of these gradients. I think this actually might be perfect positioning, and we'll try here. I don't think the multiply overlay, the multiply blend mode, will work because it's not given enough contrast bump. I think something like soft light is what we want here, and we probably don't even need to adjust the opacity. Let me just get rid of the rest of that stuff. Yeah, look at how, I mean, that just looks perfect, doesn't it? It looks really, really nice. So I'm going to do that. I can probably actually shut off my overall stroke. I don't think I need that right now. Let's focus on the shadow here that's going to go beneath his cheek. So we'll select this shape, and we will get rid of the stroke. I'll bring the fill to the foreground again. I'm going to go with the flatter gradient as well. I'm going to grab my gradient tool once again, and I'll say, yeah, you know, pull the shadow through here, maybe kind of sort of like that. You can see here, see how it's fading to nothing? So if I just deselect this, you can see it just fades out to nothing. So I'll select that, and we'll try setting this to, let's try soft light first. I think soft light, yeah, I think that's gonna work for us. Look at that. It looks like we do have just a little extra path over there. We'll just delete that because we know we don't need it. Shadows are coming together here for the head of the Firefox. And now for the paw, the interesting thing about the paw is there's really just a little bit of a shadow down here in the base, or not the base, and just like the low-lying part of the paw. So I'm going to get rid of the stroke here as well. Oh, didn't mean to double-click. Get rid of the stroke, and let's bring the fill to the front. I'm going to once again go with that darker, flatter red to transparent. I'm going to go with my gradient tool, and I'm just going to pull up a little bit right down here. So I'm just looking to give a little bumperooski of shadowy darkness here into the bottom of the paw, maybe something like that. And we'll go with probably soft light, see what that looks like. And if I deselect, yeah, you can just see, I don't know, it just comes together kind of nicely there. It's not exactly how they do it on the Firefox logo, but that's not really what we're shooting for here. We're going based on the sketch that I did. And I think that's kind of cool. All right, now let's go for our tail notches here. I'm going to grab this tail notch. Let's grab all of these. And I'm going to get rid of the stroke in one fell swoop. Now these we're going to go with the brighter red transparent gradient. All right, that kind of lines it up, actually lines it up pretty nicely, I think. And let's try setting these to the multiply blend mode. Yeah, I think we'll just roll with that. Leave them very rich. Maybe reduce the opacity a little bit. What, 85%? 75%, something like that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Flatten them out a little bit. They're a little bit bigger and more saturated than they are in, I think, the real deal Firefox logo, but I kind of like it. I think we'll leave it the way it is. Now up here, we're going to also get rid of the stroke. And we're also going to make sure we set the fill, or bring the fill to the front and give it this bright red gradient. And here I will grab the gradient tool and I'm going to pull the gradient back into it kind of like this. And I want most of this piece of the tail to be covered with that kind of red fading effect. And here I think I'm going to try hard light, and I'm just going to reduce the opacity because I want a lot of that color to carry through, and I want this to really be a strongly colored orange, which is exactly what will happen there. You see that? Just differentiates it nicely from the actual big part of the tail. All right, so now we draw the big highlight that's out on the tail here, and then we'll worry about the shadow that kind of curves in off of this in just a moment. So let's grab our pen tool, and we're going to begin this over here. So I'm going to kind of rely upon my smart guide. So what that means is I should unlock the blend so I can take advantage of the points on the path there. Or really, I can lock the blend. What I should probably do is turn on the big yellow path again, because now I can just say, all right, there's an anchor point. Cool. Maybe I'll bring the highlight off of here. So I'll hold down Shift, I'll click, and I'll drag out a point a little bit. How do I want to do this? Maybe a little bit like that. And you can kind of make this however you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the highlight in somewhere up around here. That looks cool. Hold down Alt or Option. I'm going to pull a tangent handle out around this way. And what we'll do is we'll loop this back around to somewhere right around here. Something like that. And the key is we want it to kind of end up lining up with this point here on this little shadowy area of his tail. So we're just going to pull this and try to make this like a very gentle sloping shape. And then as we've done before, Alt or Option click there, we can just kind of bump this shape right out like this, and we'll end up cutting it using our main path overlay. This guy, we'll use that. So let's just select this. We can get rid of this bright red ridiculous gradient, and let's just give it a yellow stroke. Let's get our shape correct first. So we'll bump this up so we can see this competing yellow shape. Make sure our line looks right. I think it looks pretty good. And let's select this and our underlying Firefox stroke. And we will once again go to our Pathfinder. Let's go divide and ungroup. So Command-Shift-G. I'm just going to get rid of the stuff outside of here. We know that we don't need that. And then what I want to do is I want to select the highlight. I want to copy it, Command or Control-C, but then I want to select both of those shapes, and I just want to unite them back together just so we still have one contiguous, whole underlying shape if we need to make cuts later. And then I'm just going to hit Command or Control-F to paste that shape back in place. We can get rid of the stroke by hitting the little slash. And what we'll do is we'll probably give this a white to transparent gradient. So I can hide that big yellow outline just because we don't really need it anymore. At least for this shape we don't. Let's go gradient. Let's apply that red gradient again, but I'm going to change the color stop to white. So let's push our RGB color stops all the way over. There's white there, and we got to get the red stop down here by the transparent to white as well. And we can grab our gradient tool, and let's just kind of pull the tail highlight through here. And you can see the bottom part of the shape really doesn't matter all that much because really a lot of the gradient is gone by the time it gets down there. All right, I'll deselect that. And if I like it, I'll reselect it. And we'll go to our transparency panel. And this guy will just get set to something like soft light. And you can see it's just a nice subtle highlight there for the tail. It really adds an extra layer of something there. Now, in order to create this shadow, this is kind of fun. We want to take the shadow from this exact point and bring it all the way around to this point in the notch. Oh, you know what? This tail highlight, this path probably should have come down to here. Guess what? We can still do that, I believe. Let's do a little troubleshooting here. Let's select this. Let's just save our white to transparent gradient so we don't have to remake it, right? Just drag it to the swatches panel. And let's fill this with something that's easy to see, like a hot pink. It doesn't look like it did much because it's still set to soft light, so we'll go back to normal, and let's work with this real quick. I can take my direct selection tool, and I can drag this, and you can see it's going to like click me right into that little anchor point. So that's really helpful. And then what I can do is I can bring this out here. I'll probably have to recut this shape. No problem. Look, we can do it very quickly here. Let's just go through this together. Let's learn together. I'll drag this out here. Great. All right, and I think that's good. We need to fix this now as well. So let's go ahead and just really make sure that we're pulling through here the way we should. I think I'll swap my fill and stroke just so I can see what's going on with the curve. Does the curve look right? It doesn't quite look right, does it? Let's adjust it a little bit. Let's adjust it a little more this way. Something like that. That looks a little bit better. It still looks like this handle is not 100% the way it should be. I think something like that's pretty good. Maybe we'll pull it out a little bit further here. We want to try to avoid any kind of herky-jerky looking stuff right there. That's the most important. That's the most important area where where the path kind of comes together. All right, I think that looks good. Let's turn on our original path. We'll go through that little process again where we select both paths and we divide them. So we'll go Pathfinder and we will divide, and then we'll ungroup, Command-Shift-G. We'll select the junk out here. We know that that's a goner, and we'll select the piece on the inside. See how it just matched the stroke? That's totally fine. We'll copy it, and then we'll select both. And we will just unite them again, and we can shut that path off, and then just Command or Control F to paste our new highlight right back in place. We can can the stroke, get rid of that, go back to the fill, and just apply our white to transparent gradient. Voila. Use the gradient tool. Yeah, this looks a lot better. Let's go with this. Let's pull that. Let's maybe even try to pull that highlight through the shape a little bit more. Set this to soft light, and now I believe that will be lined up a little bit more like it should be. Yeah, look at that. That's so much better. Let's work on the little shadow shape here. So let's grab the pen tool, and what we'll do is, once more, if I turn that path on, the overarching guide path, we have that anchor point right there. So I can shift-click on that. I can pull an anchor point out, and we really, this curve here that's going to come down and meet up with this point of his tail, we really want the curve to sort of follow our highlight. So that's what I'm going to kind of keep an eye on here as I create this. I certainly don't want it to clash with it in any way. So I'm just going to look. That looks about right. Whoop, I accidentally double tapped. You can see our fill is a little wild here. In fact, I'm going to get rid of that, and let's just give it that yellow stroke so we can see what's going on. I still have my path active, by the way, don't worry. And I'm going to increase the stroke to 5 points. And now we can just, create any old shape here. That's probably good enough. And then I'm going to... I just held down my Alt-Option key. I'm going to pull a tangent handle out here. I'm kind of thinking as I'm doing this. Hold down Alt-Option, click and drag to cause this to meet back up in that corner. And here's where we want it. We want to try to make this look as natural as we can. So maybe I'll try to like split between these two, because this shape is going to be the shadow. So we'll try to have, almost equal sized shapes coming out of this thing. Maybe something more like that is natural. Let me try to adjust that a little tiny bit. Something like that. Maybe like that. Something like that I think probably looks decent, right? So now with this shape, I'll select it. And here, we can get rid of the stroke once again now that we know what our shape is doing. And we're going to go with the less saturated red gradient. I think we'll use this. Well, you can see it applied the gradient to the stroke. That's why I usually bring that fill to the fore. And I'm going to add the gradient. I'm going to grab the gradient tool, and we're going to pull this gradient right through. Now, I want to be careful that I don't bring the gradient to the end, because that's obviously an ugly edge of the shape. We want this to fade out beautifully. And if I deselect, yep, it fades out nicely. Now what we need to do is set this to, let's try the blend mode of soft light and see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that'll pretty much work for us. Let's hide that thick yellow path. Where is that? Where's that coming from? There it is right there. I can just bring that up on top just so we can see what's going on there. And what I might do is select this. I think this needs to be a little fatter than it is. Still doesn't quite look right. Something doesn't look right about it. So let me just click on the path out here. I've got the direct selection tool, and I'm just going to try to make it a little fatter. I'm going to really bring this out this way. Again, I want to make sure it doesn't necessarily clash with the highlight, but I still want it to be thick enough that it makes a difference. There we go. Something like that I think will work for us. It's not perfect. It still might be too thick. I I could obsess over it all night, I suppose. All right, we'll just stick with that, I think, for now. But this is all going to be, yours is going to look different than mine, mine's going to look different than yours, and the guy next to you, and the girl next door. So we're gonna roll with what we get at a certain point. Now it's time to create the little shadow here on the inside of the fox, and this is kind of cool. What we'll do is we will make sure we lock up the globe layer, but we'll unlock all the rest of the layers, and I'll select all these. And you can see that we have a lot of different colors going on, and we got this big blend. So it's going to be a little difficult to create a shadow. This is all the more reason why it was important for us to retain that path, at least to the extent that we did. We kind of need to add some shapes back into it, though. So watch how easy this is. We want to add back in a paw. So his paw is right here. So I'll copy that, Command or Control C, Command or Control F, and I'm going to get rid of the fill, and I'm just going to add a yellow stroke back onto this and bump this up to 5 points just so we can really see it. Right there it is. I can probably select that. Let's right-click here on this paw and say Arrange, Bring to the Front. That way we can really see it. And we really still can't see it, and that's because it is set to soft light, which I forgot. There we go. So there we've got his paw. We also need the snout. Other than that, I think we'll have everything. Because remember, the shadow is only on the inside here. So those are the only shapes we really need. So let's go to his snout, which is right here. Let's copy that, Command or Control C, Command or Control F to paste in place. We're going to get rid of our little gradient fill. We're going to give it a nice yellow stroke. We're going to set it to normal blend mode. We'll push it up to 5 points for the stroke. And we will bring it to the front. So I'm just using the hotkey, Command or Control and the square brackets. Just bring it all the way up to the front. All right, cool. Now that we have that, I can select both of these shapes. So this is the yellow stroked snout and the yellow stroked bulk of the Firefox body. And we'll just unite those. Great. And then I'll do the same thing here with the little paw, and we'll unite them. And now we have a shape that we can fill with a color, which can be our shadow. And I think that color will be the dark bluish purple color, which is the same as the dark color on our globe. So let's go ahead and just get rid of this stroke, but we should actually learn from this. Let me undo that. Let's copy this shape because vectors are free. So let's go Command or Control C, Command or Control F to paste in front, and we'll just shut this off. We'll call this like a ridge path, so we know that's the original path, and this will be shadow. So here with this now, with this new shape, we'll get rid of the stroke. We'll go to the fill. We'll fill it with that purple color. Oh, it's in front of everything. Let's drag this down the layers panel and put it just beneath the blend, but of course above the little globe because it's a shadow. And what I want to do is just begin resizing this. So I can just drag this in a little bit, and you can see we're starting to see a little bit of the shadow. We drag it down a little bit. Maybe we'll get a little shadow that way. Drag it in this way a little bit. We get a little bit more of the shadow there. Drag it up a little bit on the bottom. We get a little bit of shadow there. Still think it's got to come in this way a tiny bit, and maybe down a little bit more from the top still. By the way, it might be helpful for me just to lock up the blend. Let's try this again. Push this down a little bit. There we go. Something like that's probably cool. I want to make sure I just see a little bit underneath this paw. Now we have a couple things going on here. We got this little wayward thing hanging out, this over here. This is probably too far below his ear up here. So all this is easy to fix. Before we even set this to anything, just grab your direct selection tool and we can hover over and just drag these anchor points in. It doesn't matter if it's a mess in these other parts of our shadow because, well, we never need to see a shadow over there, so that's totally fine. And here for the ear, I could select like both of these points by shift-clicking them and just nudge with my arrow keys and just say, you know what, this shadow, I just want it to be a little bit more like that. And if we wanted, of course, we could mess around and just get the angle a little bit more perfect, a little bit more smooth coming into the ear shadow there. And you could spend as much or as little time on the shadow as you wanted. And then we'll select the shadow. And I think we'll set it to like, let's try the color burn blend mode and then reduce the opacity. What does 35 look like? Does 35 look good? Yeah, something like 35. And we can zoom out. And there, we have created the Firefox logo in Adobe Illustrator. Is it perfect? Is it exactly the way that Firefox has created their logo? Absolutely not. But that's exactly why I love it, because this is my version of the Firefox logo. And you know what? I'm kind of going to nitpick the shadow a little tiny bit on that side. There we go. So something like that. And just that easily, we create the Firefox logo. I guess it took a little bit of time, but you know what? We did it, and that's what counts. And at this point, you're ready to take the artwork and export it, bring it wherever you want, share it with whoever you want. Yeah, and that's really it. So thanks for hanging out and checking this thing out with me. So there you have it. It is indeed a labor of love, a lot of just fine adjustments and things like that to make this logo what it is. I like the fact that it's a little bit different than the actual logo because it just shows, we put a little something into it. And we made it our own in the interim. Now, if you do create your own version of this logo, I would love to see it. I would love upload it to your Instagram and tag me in it. My Instagram handle is @tutvid. You want to make sure you actually tag me in the image, though, so it comes through my Instagram tagged images feed. If you give me a shout out, while I do appreciate that, it kind of like it's here today and it's gone tomorrow in my notifications, and I don't know how to get back to it. I think they just go away. But if you tag me in the actual image, then I can get to it, and I can show you a little love and see what you do. And also, if you prefer, we also have a Discord that we just started, Discord server, very own. You can head over there. The link will be appearing on screen. There's also a link down in the bio for that. You can check all that out. Join our little fun community. Have a little bit of fun with us, and come hang out there as well. So for working with the pen tool and all kinds of gradients and the blend tool and shapes and all sorts of other things here in Adobe Illustrator, guys, for this one, that's it. Get it? Got it? Good. Nathaniel Dodson, tutvid.com. I'll catch you in the next one. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more great tutorials every day. Also, buy my course. It helps us do what we do, and this channel is supported by viewers just like you. You can also just click the thumbnail and watch another video from this channel. See you next time, guys.